Hello and welcome to Observer Research Foundation. This is the second part of our ongoing conversations about India's airstrikes that happened yesterday. And today we are going to speak with another one of our experts, Mihir Sharma, Senior Fellow at Observer Research Foundation. He is a regular commentator in the daily newspapers in India. He is also an expert on international economy and the international affairs. Mihir, first of all, what does this strike mean? There's been a lot of debate, there's been a lot of talk about this strike in Pakistan, in India. But what do you think it means for the relation between India and Pakistan and the context in which it has happened?
Look, let's say that let's start by what we hoped it would mean. We hoped that we had found a way to deal without escalation with Pakistan's constant provocations on our territory. So the fear always was that if you respond in a muscular and in a military manner to an attack by a non-state actor that has been incubated by Pakistan, by an attack on Indian forces or on Indian territory, then you're opening yourself up to this ladder of escalation and you don't know how to control it. Now, what the hope was that yesterday, by demonstrating our ability to strike within Pakistan using the Indian Air Force, and very importantly, the strike was within Pakistan. It has not been confirmed from either side that our planes went into Pakistani air territory, by which I mean not Kashmir, for any lengthy period of time. They may not have. It's irrelevant. But the fact was that the strike was on Pakistani territory, and it was hoped that this demonstrates to Pakistan that we will have the ability to make strikes against non-military targets, namely terrorist training camps on Pakistani soil, and that is not an attack on the Pakistani military. And we will sell it as that both domestically and to Pakistan and to the international community, and it creates a new step on the escalation ladder, which allows us a response, but which is not military in a sense. Now, that was the hope. The question now is, if we look at the developments today, whether that hope will be borne out going forward. That hope was always dependent upon Pakistan taking a certain particular view of what the strikes had been, and not being forced by the military's position, by its own internal imperatives, into responding militarily. What we have on the ground right now appears to be dueling air forces going in and out of each other's territory, buzzing each other in some sense, and we don't know what step on the escalation ladder we're on. We also don't know how we are going to respond to a situation in which, if as appears reported, including by Indian outlets, there is now an Indian airman in Pakistani custody. This is a situation. This is terra nullius. This is terra nova. Sorry, this is we have not been here before. We don't know how to we don't know how we're going to deal with it.
You know, now comes a point. You talked about today's event, but there's going to be a deep thinking in New Delhi about how to react and what will be next. What, in your opinion, in the current situation where you say that there is no certainty, there is a great deal of uncertainty as far as the escalation ladder is concerned, what do you think should be the thought process, or could be the thought process in New Delhi as far as today's events are concerned? Because yesterday there was a lot of jubilation, yesterday there was a lot of kind of a message that had gone across, but today the message, there is a counter message to yesterday's message. And do you think this back and forth should continue? What do you think is going to happen next?
Look, I think that's a very good question. There are two embedded assumptions there. The first assumption is that we thought the possibilities of escalation through. Even if we did, which hopefully we did, there's no proof that we did, but even if we did, it is entirely possible that we could also have miscalculated. And we have to accept that it is in this kind of back and forth, miscalculations are always a danger. And the miscalculation that we may or may not have made was that it would be in Pakistan's interest, in the interest of the Pakistani establishment, to minimize the impact of our strikes thereby removing the need and the pressure on them to strike back. Now, that appeared to be their first response yesterday. Now, it appears that within 24 hours, they did take a strike back, and we could have done the same thing. We could have minimized whatever strike, whatever counter strike they wish to launch. Unfortunately, it's beach me. In the middle of this, we have one incontrovertible fact, if it turns out to be an incontrovertible fact, which is that there is an Indian airman in custody.
You describe it as a kind of a dueling. There's a sense of uncertainty. We don't know where we are on the escalation ladder. But there's a larger debate also, which is a long-term vision as far as asymmetrical warfare is concerned and as far as India's retaliation doctrine is concerned. For too long, there has been a sense that Pakistan, under the nuclear umbrella, has been using asymmetric warfare to kind of trouble India. How do you think India will start looking at it, or how do you think that the deterrence for asymmetry will change after these strikes?
Well, you know, Khalid, that's exactly what I think, that decision is exactly what we're living through right now. We had hoped that this would be a way from without escalation to provoke, to deal with Pakistan's constant provocations, to demonstrate that retaliation is possible, and most importantly, to serve as a deterrent for the Pakistani army's constant use of non-state actors. However, I think that we will only know for certain the effectiveness of this methodology if we emerge from this current confrontation having reduced the Pakistani army's status within its own society. And the crucial thing is that if instead we have raised the Pakistani army's status, then for a rational actor such as the Pakistani army, this retaliation will not come as a deterrent, right? We need to find a form of retaliation that deters them, that reduces their status, that if necessary humiliates the decision makers. I'm not sure we are there yet, and I'm not sure whether this has achieved that yet. It is possible that when we emerge from it, they will have their status, the Pakistani establishment, Pakistani military establishment will have suffered a loss in status. Let us hope so, and that depends on how we play our cards going forward. But it is not settled yet.
You know, a lot of what happens between India and Pakistan has an international dimension. There have been various reactions from international players coming in from yesterday. How do you see the reactions coming in? France, China, European Union, Australia, even America has given a statement. What do you make of those statements? What do you make of the, everyone is asking for restraint for sure, but there is also a lot that can be read between the lines.
I think the US statement was very interesting. The US statement in particular focuses on, I think it raises the Indian talking points, it privileges them. And this is something that we have always hoped for from the United States, and we have not always received. And the Pakistani reaction to that statement has been very interesting. I think that it is very clear that they are holding the Taliban peace talks hostage to a more friendly attitude from the US. I think the US will have to realize that part of what has emboldened the Pakistani military establishment in the past year has been a clear indication from Washington DC that it wishes to privilege peace talks with the Taliban, with the Afghan Taliban. And this has completely emboldened the Pakistani military establishment as it did in the past. The US does face a choice going forward. The president has indicated that getting troops out of Afghanistan are a priority for him. But the truth is, it does not want to leave behind a Pakistani military establishment and a jihadist establishment that believes that it has won.
So do you mean there is a blackmail happening, an Afghanistan blackmail happening from Pakistan to kind of come out of this as victorious, or kind of to have the international support on their side? Because there is also a nuclear blackmail that was, how do you read it?
Against us, they have always used nuclear blackmail. And the truth is, we can call it nuclear blackmail, but it is a position now that we have to deal with, because there is an escalation there is an escalation spiral, and somewhere on that spiral there is nuclear weapons, and neither of us wants to use them. And so Pakistan believes that it can. We have always said we can respond to sub-conventional warfare, such as Pakistan launches at us through conventional means. We have not tried it. Now Pakistan has said any conventional attack has the possibility of eventually going nuclear. These are theories so far. Let us hope and pray that at least the second one never gets tested. But you're absolutely right that Pakistan is now also using peace in Afghanistan, now that it is a stated aim of the US administration, as a form of blackmail against the US. And I think the US government should recognize that it has put itself in a position where it can be blackmailed by Pakistan, and that was a mistake.
Two bits of advice for the government of India on the fact that there is a dual blackmail happening from Pakistan. One is the Afghan peace talks, the other is nuclear blackmail. There's also a degree of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen next. There must be deep thinking happening in North Bloc and South Bloc right now. But two bits of advice from you, because you're also someone who's very closely watching the international affairs as well. What would you tell the government of India at this juncture?
Look, I think that again, it's very difficult for those of us on the outside without access to the best possible information about what is actually happening to give advice. So I think that that
caveat applies.
That caveat has to apply, so that neither of us looks silly tomorrow morning. But it is very important, I think, for all of us on the outside to do two things. The first is to try and evaluate what has changed in the escalation spiral, and to demonstrate if nothing has changed, then it is very unfortunate, but both sides, both India and Pakistan, will have to climb down. If we have not found a new layer in the escalation spiral, then so be it. We will have to climb down, and we will have to find again other ways of deterring Pakistan, and that should be taken as read, that we will never stop finding ways and seeking to find those ways to deter Pakistan's actions using jihadists. I think the larger question for India now is that you cannot, this is not 15 years ago, you cannot rely on the United States to control Pakistan. All right. The United States needs Pakistan less, and Pakistan needs the United States less. The question that I think we need to ask now is that we have had a reset with the People's Republic of China. Post Wuhan, we have brought down tensions, we have fundamentally changed the rhetoric from our side, and we have ensured that their rhetoric towards us has also changed. It is time now for us to see to what degree China is willing to rein in its client state. We need to be making those calls to Beijing that we made to Washington, D.C. earlier. And I hope and trust those calls are being made. And we need to be able to demonstrate that we need to be able to plan for a future in which we have certain levers to apply with China, just as in the past we have had levers with the United States.
Thank you for your insights, Mihir Sharma. Always a pleasure talking to you on all matters of international affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khalid.